What's happening, guys? Back at you with the nerd video. So now with the newly released live action Disney remake of The Little Mermaid now in theaters, we now have a new live action movie added to all of the many live action Disney remakes that we have now. So I don't know what is a finalized list. Looking online and trying to get a finalized list of all the Disney live action remakes. It's always debatable. There's some movies that are on a list that people say should be on a list. There's some other movies on there that people shouldn't say that shouldn't be on there. There's not like a finalized list that I was able to actually find. So these are just some of the movies that I've added to the list that I think should be on a list at least. And I don't know if it's all of the movies for Disney live action remakes, but we're going to go ahead and rank all these from bottom to the top. Now, I did actually rewatched all of these movies. It basically took me like about a month, just probably a month and a couple days, to actually rewatch all of these live action remakes. So this is a very fresh take on all of these live action remakes, how I would rank them in this live action remake list. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the bottom pick, and that's going to have to be Pinocchio. Pinocchio live action remake is probably on a lot of people's bottom of the list. This one was definitely a struggle to get through. I don't know. I did not really like this one, honestly. Like, I really didn't like it. I don't think it's really good. It doesn't really do anything to capture things that the original did. It doesn't really improve on anything either. I don't know. It was really a hard struggle to get through this movie. This is one I'm probably not going to rewatch ever. Like, I really don't have a desire to rewatch this one. I've only seen it the one time, and I can't. I barely was able to get through it. I couldn't get through it too much, honestly. But let's go ahead and get on to the next one. Listen, that's going to be Alice Through the Looking Glass. This is the sequel to the original live action Alice in Wonderland, and this one has a lot of problems with it. I honestly was not entertained by this movie. It was definitely a hard watch to get through. Also, I don't know. I just did not like it. I was not entertained by it. I was not. I don't know. Just the characters in this one either too was like, I don't know. I couldn't get. It was hard to get through this movie. Like, I got through all these movies. It's very rare that I just stop watching a movie. Like, I at least give it a chance and try to get through it, all of it. But this one was definitely a struggle. It definitely was a hard watch to get through. I was basically not entertained by this movie at all, and just different things. It has flaws and all that. Moving on to the next one on the list is going to be 102 Dalmatians. Now, this is a sequel to the original live action remake of 101 Dalmatians. This one, it's not as bad as the other two. It's a watchable movie, I think. But really, the thing that holds this movie for me mostly is the portrayal of Cruella by Glenn Close. I think she holds this movie a little bit more to the level that to where it's watchable. Other things, I don't know. I don't really get into other things in this movie. And like, I'm a fan of the 101 Dalmatians. Like, I am. Like the animated movie. I like the live action one too. The first original live action one. Like, I'm a fan of 101 Dalmatians, but this one, rewatching it recently, it's not. It's a watchable movie, but like I said, Cruella is probably the thing that makes it more watchable than other things in this movie. I just couldn't get into it as much. Next up on the list is going to be Dumbo. Now, when I first actually saw this movie in theaters, I wasn't really expecting to watch this movie in theaters, but I actually did watch it in theaters. I actually kind of enjoyed it when I watched it in theaters. And this was actually basically my second time rewatching this movie since it's been out of the theaters, so I could be able to get a fresh take on it. And for some reason, I did not enjoy this movie as much as I watched it the first time. It kind of went down for me with this second viewing. I like things in it. I like how I like how we're getting the story of Dumbo and stuff like that. You know, Dumbo's cute and all that in this movie, but I just, upon second rewatch, it went down for me, honestly. It went down for me, and not that it's a bad movie or anything like that. It's just, it didn't do it for me this second time around like it did the first time. So, really, it was just, it's a watchable, cute little movie. Probably kids will like it more, but, like, I definitely didn't like it as much as I first viewing. Next up, we come to this movie. Now, this movie, last time I saw it was many years ago, probably when I was a kid. I watched this movie. So I watched it again recently, and that is going to be the 1994 version of The Jungle Book. Now, I watched this one recently, like I said, and I think that it does some good things in there. I like the use of them using actual animals in this movie, so that's a plus in this movie. But when it just comes to I don't know, just when it comes down to it, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did as a kid. And uh, just this, I guess the overall story, I don't know. I didn't really get into it that much, overall story, and I just didn't enjoy it as much as I did as a kid. Like, I used to watch this movie as a kid. Not a lot, but like I watched it a few times as a kid and enjoyed it for the most part. But upon this recent rewatch, I didn't like it as much. I guess I didn't really. I guess I didn't have too much nostalgia for it, and then the nostalgia, having the nostalgia carry over to watching it now. I guess it didn't happen that way. But like I said, I think the plus in this movie is that they actually used actual animals in this movie, so I think that's a plus for at least for me. Next up on the list is going to be the Lady and the Tramp. This was exclusive to Disney Plus, I believe. I don't think it released in theaters. Honestly, this one is not bad. It's not a bad movie. This was actually my first time watching it recently. That was my first time watching it, and I think it's entertaining for the most part. Like, it's a watchable, entertaining movie. I think you'll get a kick out of just it being, it's kind of a cute little dog's tale, really. That's basically what it is. It's a cute little dog's tale. Uh, Basically a period piece taking place in the early 1900s or mid 1900s. I don't know exactly when it was taking place, but it's a cute little dog's tale like you get from the animated movie. So I don't think it really does anything to improve upon the anime movie, but it's a nice little cute dog's tale that's watchable and you could kind of get entertained by it. Just cuteness overload in a way with all the dogs and puppies that you see. So it's at least watchable for those aspects of things. Moving on to the next movie on the list, and that's going to be the live action Lion King. Now, this one, upon first rewatch, I remember watching this in theaters, and upon that viewing, I did not really like this movie that much. This was a movie that, now this is the original animated Lion King, is basically my like top favorite Disney animated movie of all time. So this one had a lot to live up to, and it does not live up to that. It really doesn't. I watched it recently though. I'm not going to say I warmed up to it too much, but I I want to say I enjoyed it a lot more this time around, but I didn't hate it upon first viewing. But I will say that I don't want to say I enjoyed it more than first viewing, but I like it slightly enjoyed it more than the first time I actually watched it. Now this movie I don't enjoy it as much. Like I don't know. I can't enjoy it as much. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It does a lot of great things when it comes to visuals and the photorealistic animals. But the thing about this movie is that the animals cannot emote, so it's very dependent on the voice acting. And I'm not saying the voice acting was bad in this movie. It's just that for me, with the animals not being able to emote and is very dependent on the voice acting in this, it does not come across for me as well as some other movies. So I have to put it a little bit lower on the list. That's just for me. Moving on to the next one on the list is going to be a more recent one that came out, and that's going to be the new Peter Pan and Wendy Disney Plus exclusive movie. This was another movie that was exclusive to Disney Plus, didn't release in theaters. And I gotta say, I was actually kind of surprised with this one. Now, I'm not really necessarily a big Peter Pan fan, but with this movie, I think it did a lot of good things to kind of capture some things from the original movie, but also add a couple of things into it. We kind of get this more fleshed out story between Captain Hook and Peter Pan, which I think was a good addition to the movie. And honestly, this is just a movie that's kind of simple. It's a kind of simple movie that kind of captures some things from the original anime movie. I think it does some good things with the movie. Not necessarily one that captures the full magic or anything like that, but I think it's actually a watchable movie. And I think it's I was honestly kind of surprised, not fully surprised, but I was kind of surprised on how watchable it actually is, how entertained I was kind of is. And I'm not saying I was like immensely entertained by this movie, but like it was honestly at least worth the watch. Nice, entertaining, kind of watchable movie. I actually kind of liked it a little bit. Moving on to the next one on the list and that is going to be Alice in Wonderland. I think I like a lot of things that Tim Burton was able to do with this movie, and honestly, this movie is enjoyable and it's entertaining to a certain degree. Like I said, a lot of this whole Wonderland visuals and things like that. I think Tim Burton did an excellent job with that right there. When it comes to that, then the story isn't as strong as some other movies, but like it's telling the tale of Alice when she goes to Wonderland and all that stuff. I enjoyed this movie. I watched it first for the very first time like 2 or 3 years ago maybe, and this is my second time watching this recently. Um, I was entertained by it with it being a watchable movie, and like I like some of the things they're able to do with the visuals and all that stuff, and dealing with Wonderland. So this one's not that bad. Next up on the list is going to be 101 Dalmatians. Now, like I said, I'm a big fan of the original animated movie, and I think this one is able to capture the thing from the animated movie to where it's a very simple movie, like simplicity. It's done with such simplicity that it works so well with this movie. Cruella is the standout with in this movie to where Glenn Close, the way she's able to portray Cruella, she does such a great job with this. And like I said, simplicity works. Where you have in the original animated movie to where the dogs can actually talk in that one, and then this one they don't actually talk, but they do it to the way that you're able to feel or know what the dogs are thinking or how they're feeling, the way they're able to have that to a certain degree. You can actually feel it, like, with them using real dogs in here, mainly with the Dalmatians and all that. But you can still feel, like, without having them talk, you can somehow still feel what they're thinking, and still they don't necessarily emote or anything like that, but you can some way, I don't know how they do it, some way they are able to, you can still feel how they're thinking. And then when it comes to performances, to where it's like the actors are talking to the dogs, you could feel like they're having a conversation of sorts. You could kind of tell what the dogs are thinking and all that. I don't know how they do it exactly, but you just feel that in this movie. So like I said, this movie basically works, what puts it higher, and it works best when it's simplistic, and simplicity is what comes out in this movie more, and that's what makes it more better live action movie for me. And like I said, Glenn Close is so great as Cruella with her performance in this movie. Coming up next to the next movie in this list, and this was a first time watch for me recently, and that's going to be Pete's Dragon. Now, I remember watching the original when I was a kid, and I know there's some debate on whether this one should be considered a live action remake or not. I decided to go ahead and just add it into this one because it's, people debate whether it should be, like, it's on some people's list, and some other people say it shouldn't be included and all that stuff. I just went ahead and decided to include it since I haven't actually seen the movie before. Just decided to go ahead and include it. I could get at least a first watch out of this one. And like I said, this one is actually pleasantly kind of enjoyable. You get this story with this boy who's basically stranded out in the woods, been living in the woods for many years, but he has his friend with him, the dragon. And, you just get this kind of story to where it's simple story, this emotional story with this boy, and just basically about family and all that stuff, and you just having this friend with who's a dragon and all that. And honestly, it was a pleasant watch to have on to have it and watch it for the first time. I kind of enjoyed it. Probably not one I'll like go back to very often to rewatch, but at least for the first time viewing, honestly, kind of a pleasant watch. Moving on to the next movie on the list, and that's going to be Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. This is the sequel to the live action one that we got. And I gotta say, the standout, of course, in this movie is probably going to be Angelina Jolie. She really performs so well as Maleficent, as this character, where she's able to bring depth to this character, unlike we got in the anime movie, to where the anime movie of Sleeping Beauty, of course, was revolving around Sleeping Beauty, Aurora herself. I liked how they were able to switch it up to where we get more depth and more of a background story with Maleficent in this one, and Angelina Jolie just brings it with her performance of Maleficent. Really is the thing that makes it a standout in this movie. I don't like this one as much as the original live action, the first live action one, but I still think it's a good watch, and I still like aspects of it in this movie. With the inclusion of Michelle Pfeiffer in this one, I think it has a pretty good, some good things about it. It's not one I rewatch a whole lot. Probably seen it probably twice, really, and all since it's been out. So it's not one I go back to, but when I do go back to actually watch it, it's honestly a good watch. Moving on to the next movie on the list, and this is going to be Mulan. With the Mulan live action one, they did a lot of things differently. This one was definitely one that was a standout when it comes to doing things differently from the anime movie. Like the anime movie, I love the anime movie. It's one of my favorites. So when they were taking these kind of drastic steps to like where it's different, cutting things from the anime movie, adding new things to this movie, I gotta say, when it comes to the execution of doing those types of things, it's not as bad as some people may say. I think this is still a watchable, kind of enjoyable movie if you enjoy some of the action. I think the action set pieces in here are pretty good, so I do like it for that. I don't think it's a bad story, really. I think it kind of gets the message, the main message that the anime movie had, to where Mulan is at the forefront. She's doing this in honor of her family, to protect her family, and I think that it gets at least that main message across in this movie, just like the animated movie. But of course, it cuts a lot of things from the anime movie that we don't get in this live action movie. It's not. I mean, you kind of feel it. I kind of feel it missing when it has those things that they changed and kind of added. So if I feel the missing parts of it from the anime movie, but as far as doing something a little different, I think it does it well. But it's definitely not one I go back to rewatch a whole lot. Like I've seen it a couple times and I enjoy it. I enjoy it for the most part watching it each time, but it's not one I really rewatch or have the desire to rewatch a whole lot. But I still think it's an enjoyable movie. Next up, we get to the live action, or I guess live action. Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin is a movie that stars Ewan McGregor, and I'm not the biggest Winnie the Pooh fan, but I think this one does a good sense of capturing those characters and being able to tell the story about basically childhood and being able to get that emotional side, get that story across to where everybody was a child, everybody was has childhood memories, has those childhood nostalgia things. And I think this movie tells a good story to where it reminds you of things from your childhood to that you deeply treasured. And I think this one does a good job of being able to capture that and capture those memories from a childhood, perspective, to where we get it tells the story of how adulthood is, but it makes you think back to your childhood, those childhood memories. And honestly, this is a good watch. I enjoy this movie actually, despite not being the biggest Winnie the Pooh fan. I think it's still an enjoyable movie. I really do. It's not one I rewatch a whole lot, but I still, every time I rewatch it, I still think it's an enjoyable movie to where it reminds you of that nostalgia, that childhood memories, and just basically how adulthood has those troubles, and it just brings you back to those childhood things that you remember to was like being a child. You remember those childhood memories, you remember the childhood nostalgia and all that stuff, and it just tells a pleasant story about that. Moving on to the next one, this was another first time watch for me, and that's going to be The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Now, this one I was like skeptical on whether I should include it or not. This one is definitely debatable on whether it should be included in live action remakes. So I decided to go ahead and just include this one since I haven't actually seen it before. I was going to be like, I was debating whether or not I should include it, but since I've never seen it before, I decided to just include it so I could at least get it out of the way and watch it, have a first time viewing of it, and watch it. But I gotta say, I was actually surprised by this movie on how much I actually enjoy this. This movie is actually enjoyable. Nicolas Cage is pretty cool as the sorcerer in here. We got Jay Baruchel in here, being the sorcerer's apprentice, and Alfred Molina comes out here too. So it's like actually enjoyable movie. I was like actually surprised on how much I actually enjoyed it, how much I like it. I was actually intrigued by some of the things in this movie where it's just telling the lore in the beginning and it just goes throughout telling some more lore. I was actually intrigued by that and how all this world and all this myths and lore and all these things come together, and honestly was actually entertained while watching this. It has some good music in it too, with One Republic and all that. So I like a lot of things that this movie was able to do, and actually was intrigued by it. I was actually intrigued by this movie. There was an after credit scene. I didn't even know that. But when the credits start rolling, I just happened to just be. I left it on. I didn't like expect anything. I just left it on, and I was doing something else while the credits were rolling still. And then the scene just popped up, and I was like, "Oh, there's an after credit scene." I was surprised, the scene just popped up and it just leaves off on a cliffhanger of sorts. And as far as I know, there's not a sequel, or there wasn't plans for a sequel at least. I don't know how well this movie actually did in theaters when it came out, but I'm actually intrigued. I was actually intrigued when they showed the after credit scene. I was actually intrigued on what could happen next. So unfortunately, I don't think we're getting a sequel or anything to that movie, but I was actually intrigued by the after credit scene. I was intrigued while watching this movie for the first time. It's actually an enjoyable movie. I think it does a lot of great things in there. So honestly, not a bad movie at all. It's actually good. Coming to the next movie on the list, and that's going to be the first Maleficent movie. Like I said, with the Maleficent Mistress of Evil, I think Angelina Jolie is the standout in this movie. She does a lot of great things with the character of Maleficent. The way they're able to tell the story and give more depth to the character of Maleficent, to where it was not a straight remake or shot for shot remake of Sleeping Beauty. We get that. We get the aspects of Sleeping Beauty Aurora herself, but this one is told in the perspective of Maleficent, to where we get more of a background story on her. We get the depth of her character. We get to see the reason why she is the way she is, and they were able to change the story a little bit to where it was actually changing for the better, in my opinion. I think they did a great improvement upon the animated movie of Sleeping Beauty with this movie, and I actually like this movie. Like, I like this movie. I think it does a lot of great things with this movie. Like I said, Angelina Jolie brings it with her performance as Maleficent. Very, very stand out in this movie, and I just like some of the things they're able to do with this movie. I like how they're able to explore the woods, the moors, and bring us these creatures. I mean, from the moors, and being able to have those interesting, being able to see those characters was very interesting, or those creatures. I mean, it was very interesting seeing those creatures in the movie and all that stuff. And when it came to the Misters of Evil, it's actually interesting to see those creatures as well in that one too. So like I said, I think this one is a good movie. I like it. I actually enjoy watching it each time I actually rewatch it. So I think this one's a good movie. Moving on to the next movie, and that's going to be Aladdin. Now, Aladdin, the animated movie, is one of my favorite animated Disney movies of all time. So this one definitely has some expectations on it to where it, can it be able to live up to the expectations of my expectations and expectations of the animated movie. Now, upon first viewing of this, I wanted to go see this in theaters. I didn't like it as much, but upon rewatch, I actually warmed up to it a little bit more. I warmed up to this one a little bit more, and actually enjoyed watching it this time around a little bit more. I think Will Smith, when it comes to casting somebody to play the genie, with Robin Williams playing the genie so well, the phenomenal performance from Robin Williams in the anime movie, and I was uh, casting Will Smith, I think Will Smith did a great job to where he doesn't copy Robin Williams. That's one of the things I want them to do, with whoever they cast as Genie, where it's like, I don't want them to copy what Robin Williams did. I want them to be able to put their own little style on it, or change some stuff a little bit about it to where it doesn't really do a copy for copy of Robin Williams, what he was able to do in the anime movie. So when they cast Will Smith, I thought it was an interesting casting. I thought he could bring a certain style to it, to where he brings his charisma and charm to it. And I think Will Smith is great as a genie in this movie. Like, he doesn't do, like I said, I like that he isn't a copy of Robin Williams. Like, he brings his own style and brings his own charisma and charm to this role of a genie. So I like that part. When it comes to the actors of Aladdin and Jasmine, I think they are pretty well done in this one. I think they are able to capture certain essences of the characters from the anime movie, and kind of do a good job of playing the characters in this movie. I still feel the same way about the character Jafar, and nothing against the actor who plays him, but I just feel like he's not as good of a villain as he is in the anime movie. It's something, upon this rewatch, is still missing something for me. So I'm not talking bad about the actor himself. I'm just talking about when it comes to the character of Jafar in this movie. I'm still not on board. It's still not believable for me to where it's a very good villain in this movie. But I like a lot of things that they're able to do with this one. The set pieces look good and awesome and amazing in this movie, actually. Whereas able to have this the Kingdom of Agrabah with the set pieces and all that stuff. Music is good in here too. Musical performances are good in here. So I think it does a lot of good things. I actually have warmed up to this movie a little bit more upon rewatch, and I actually did find myself enjoying this movie after rewatch. Moving on to the next one, this was another first time watch for me, and that's going to be Cinderella. I think this one is a great period piece type of movie, to where we get this story of Cinderella. And I think, I'm not a huge fan of the Cinderella animated movie, but I think this one is able to improve upon it, to where it's giving us a good story, and it fleshes out some things about Cinderella and her story. So I think it does a lot of good things with this movie, on par with the animated movie. Like I said, it's a first time watch for me. I actually think it's actually pretty good. It's actually not bad. It's a pretty good movie to watch. So I think they're able to do a lot of good things with this movie. Moving on to the next one on listen. This is going to be the newly released Little Mermaid movie. Like I said in my review before, Halle Bailey is the standout of this movie, to where she's able to capture the character of Ariel so great, and able to play Ariel on par with the way the depiction of her is in the animated movie. She has an amazing singing voice, being able to be expressive to where she cannot talk in this, basically in the second half of the movie, but being able to be so expressive and have that sense of curiosity and wonder with the human world, and showing that with her expressive expressions and expressiveness that she has. So she's able to capture that really well. Melissa McCarthy playing Ursula was great in this movie. The rest of the cast is fine too, and the voice acting is actually not bad at all. And I like how they're able to kind of flesh out the relationship between Ariel and Prince Eric to where we don't really get that in the anime movie as much. To they kind of fleshed it out in this movie a little bit more to where I think it's more believable that they can actually fall for each other and all that. So I think that they did a good job with that. But like I said, highly enjoyable movie. Just minor nitpicks about this movie, but honestly, it was a pleasant surprise and actually enjoyable movie for me when I was watching it in theaters. Honestly, very good movie actually. Next on my list is going to be another first time watch for me, and that's going to be Cruella. Emma Stone does a fantastic job of playing the character of Cruella, and I see the comparison to where you get this background story of Cruella from when she's young to adulthood, and you see all the things that come together to where you get the character of her in 101 Dalmatians. Like, you see the setup, you see all the things that goes on with her, and you see why she is the way she is. And I think this was actually a good watch. I was entertained by this movie a whole lot when it came to watching this for the first time. Emma Stone does a great job with playing the character Cruella and being able to bring us those aspects of her to where you get those hints of her character from 101 Dalmatians. You get those depictions of her, and I think she did a great job with this one. This one's actually a pretty good movie. I actually enjoyed watching this. It was very enjoyable. Next up on the list is going to be The Jungle Book from 2016. I think this one is definitely stands the test of time. Upon rewatch, I was still enamored by it. I still enjoyed watching it. I was thoroughly entertained by it. I think this one does a good job where The Lion King kind of lacks. I think this one does a better job at showing those animal emotions. It doesn't show a whole lot with the animals. Like, it's not like they are super emotive or anything like that, but it does just enough to where you could be able to see the emotions of the characters. But the thing that takes it a level up, a step above, is the voice acting. When it comes to the cast, they got a great cast of people to voice act these creatures and animals, and being able to be expressive and just bogs down to the character. They're able to play their characters well with their voice, that it propels the animal character more with the way they're able to voice act and play these characters. So like, it has a great cast, but the thing that puts it above is like, this cast does such a great job of voicing the animals that it puts it at a level higher to where we understand and feel these characters, feel these animals, and see it, like, to where the voice acting is so good that you could like see it on their face too, of the animals and stuff. And it's not like they're emoting a whole lot, but like, it's enough with the voice acting and the way they're showing these animals that it does something better to where it wasn't done before. And the character of Mowgli is done pretty well. He's able to capture things of Mowgli the character and from the original anime Jungle Book movie, to where he's performing with these animals and being able to capture all those things and be able to play off of these animals very well. And he just does a great job with this character Mowgli in here. So I gotta say, this one is still highly enjoyable upon rewatch. I still enjoyed it, still like it, was entertained by it. So definitely still a great movie. But we come to the top spot, and the top spot for me is going to be Beauty and the Beast. I think with Beauty and the Beast, it's actually my favorite live action remake. I think it does a great job with when it comes to the cast. They got such a great cast in this movie, and I think it's one of the few ones that's able to capture the magic of the original animated movie. Now, I'm not like the biggest fan of the animated movie. I'm not saying it's bad or anything like that. I'm just not one that is a big fan of the original animated movie. Still like the animated movie, but I'm not like the biggest fan of it. But with this one, the way it's like, we have the one of the best casts, I gotta say, and it's able to capture the magic from the original animated movie. I think they do a lot of great things in this movie to where it's like, it just captures that. It captures that magic from the animated movie. They have a lot of great music in this movie. Like, just overall, the cast, like, it's not like one person stands out over the rest. Like, it's just, the whole cast is great to where everybody puts on a great performance, to where nobody really outshines the other one, and it's not a bad thing or anything like that. Like, you could just see this cast just flows off one another and just comes together to make this movie, and with their performances and all those things like that. And just like I said, this movie is probably my favorite out of all the live action movies. I think this one just captures the magic of the anime movie the best when it comes to compared to other live action movies. And this one is one I rewatched the most. Like, I probably rewatched this one the most. It's one I actually have a desire to rewatch every so often down the line. So like, it's actually one of my favorite live action ones, and I think it does a great job of with the cast capturing the magic and great music and everything put together. All those things put together makes this one the reason why I put it at the top when it comes to the live action remakes. But that's going to do it for this video. This is probably one of the longest ranking videos I have. But let me know down in the comments below, how would you rank all of these movies? But that'll do our first video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Remember, if you want to be a part of Team Legendary, all you gotta do is subscribe and turn notifications on so you know I post another video. Hope you all have an awesome day, and remember, be legendary.